श्रीवत्सवंशकलशोदधिकौस्तुभस्य श्रीवासराघवगुरोस्तनयं ततश्च विद्या अवाप्य विबुधोत्तमतां दधानं कुर्वे सदा हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यं रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकालयतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्. In the previous lecture, we were looking at devotion. We were discussing about the difference between being just a seeker and being a humble seeker. One who is seeking should know what is being sought, right? If I am seeking happiness, I should know what happiness means. If I do not understand what happiness is, what is the point of saying I am a seeker of happiness? Even if by chance that happiness comes to me, if I do not understand that this is happiness, it means that all my effort has gone waste. So, it is absolutely necessary to understand what is being sought. Without that, you cannot begin anything. What is it that the Veda is asking us to seek? Something seems to be mentioned again and again. What is that? Kim tad Brahma? Therefore, the Vedanta Sutras begin with the desire to learn about Brahman. You learn about Brahman through the scriptures, through the Vedic scriptures. Who is that Brahman? The creator, preserver, destroyer, we call him by infinite names. There is some fundamental force, some fundamental entity, without whom the universe would not be there, from whom the entire universe came, and to whom the entire universe would return. That fundamental entity who is within each one of us. If you have heard the prayer that they recite at the School of Ancient Wisdom, you would know that they talk about the Antaryami, that light which is within us and guides us. What does light do? By nature, it gives brightness. It removes darkness. That darkness of ignorance is removed by the light. The darkness of imperfection is removed by the light. The darkness which we classify as Adhyatmika, Adidaivika and Adibhautika dukkha's is removed by that light which is Bhagavan. That Brahman who is known to us as the creator, preserver, destroyer and so on. Janmadhyasya yataha. That was the second sutra. Okay, you are saying that this is the Brahman, but can't I believe in my own version of Brahman? I understand Brahman to be just some force. I think just only nature is the force. I think that nature is Brahman. What is wrong in thinking that nature is Brahman? Maybe first, before arriving at a conclusion, I should think about what teaches me about Brahman. How do I know about myself? How much do I know about myself? When I look at myself, I see hands, feet, and so on. I will think I am my body. I will go to the doctor. The doctor would talk about heart, kidney, stomach, brain, so many items that cannot be seen, so many parts of my own body that I cannot see and I cannot understand. When I go to the doctor would teach me about all of them. Who was I in my early years? When I was 2 years old, what was I really doing? I don't know. That was me, but I don't know what I was doing when I was just 1 year old. What do? I go and ask my mother, how was my behavior when I was just 1 year old? She tells me. So, even for an ordinary person, a very ordinary person, let us forget about the Vedanti. The most ordinary person to know about themselves, there is a great lot of things to learn. They can learn some amount from their parents, they can learn some amount from the doctor, they can learn some amount by observing themselves. Yet, all of these observations are limited to the body. As long as you are relying on pratyaksha and anumana, your conclusion is going to be something which is controlled by whatever is observable. If you ask astrophysicists, they would tell you there is something called observable universe and there is something called non-observable universe. What do you mean by observable universe? If I send out a ray of light from here, it reaches some galaxy far, far away, and then it gets reflected and comes back to me. I will know that the galaxy is there. Something has happened, right? I am able to detect that light, detect the bending of light in some way or the other. Maybe it is coming back to me, maybe it is getting bent, maybe there is a black hole, whatever. What if, what if by the time light reaches that place, it would be so many years from today? 1 light year is the distance that is traveled by light in 1 year. Light year is not a unit of time, it is a unit of distance. Light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 full year. But the universe is so many light years in size, and the universe continues to expand. So the outermost parts, the border places of the universe, can never be observed by us. That is the reality the scientists are accepting. So there are certain things that, even though technically, theoretically, assuming you have all the equipment, you might be able to understand and observe, due to various reasons, you are not able to perceive it. You are not able to understand about it properly. When such is the case, what about those cases where our karmendriyas and jnanendriyas are insufficient? I can see a star. Maybe I can't see it from here, but if I use a telescope, I can see. Somehow or the other, using some computer visualization, I'm able to see. Okay, but seeing requires my eyesight, right? What if there is something that my eyes cannot see, no matter which equipment I use? There are such entities. Why are we discussing about eyes and seeing and so on? This is supposed to be a lecture on Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Wait, that is exactly where we are arriving. We are arriving at the topic of Brahman. Brahman cannot be observed and understood and perceived just by using the eyes. The eyes have very limited capability. Can I understand the existence of Brahman just by looking around? No, I cannot. Nor can I by listening. Oh, if this sound comes, it is Brahman. No, I cannot. What do I do if I touch something? Okay, I touch the table, book, this, that, everything. Am I able to realize Brahman anywhere? No, I'm not. Our own sense organs are insufficient and incapable of perceiving Brahman. They have limitations. Brahman has to produce in front of us a version of itself that is perceivable by us for us to perceive that Brahman. Please try to understand. Brahman has to present to us a perceivable version of itself so that we are able to perceive Brahman. When such is the case, is Brahman showing each and every one of us about itself? Look, this is how I exist. This is what I do. Look at me creating the universe. This is what I did in the past. This is what I'm doing in the present. This is what I'm going to do in future. Does a Brahman come and show us? No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to. Then how do we know about Brahman? Shastra yonitvat. We know about Brahman because of the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, the Vedas, and the allied scriptures which are there to explain the Vedas to us, like Itihasas, Puranas, and so on. They teach us about Brahman. Without the help of the Shastras, it is impossible for us to understand Brahman. Therefore, faith in the Shastra is necessary. Okay, let us say I believe in the Shastra. What, according to the Shastra, is the cause of the universe? Can't I say nature? No, you can't. Because nature is inert. Nature doesn't have consciousness. Something that does not have consciousness cannot do anything willingly. But the Vedas say he decided to create and then he created. It decided to create and then it created. Whether we use he or she for Brahman doesn't matter. Brahman is not bound by gender. But Brahman decided to create and created. This decision-making power requires consciousness. That consciousness is not there in nature. It is there in Brahman who controls that nature. We saw about that. So a number of sutras in the Brahma Sutra discuss about this differentiation between Prakriti and Brahman. After that, we go to the stage where we are looking at ourselves. How should we be? We discussed about devotion in the previous class. There was a very important reason as to why we discussed about it. In fact, if I move a few slides backwards, the slides are hidden, sorry. If we were to look at what was discussed one lecture before this, we were still talking about the nature of Brahman, how Brahman is mentioned in the Veda as this, that, and everything. So, for us to just learn about Brahman is not going to be enough. We have to seek that Brahman. But what do you mean by seeking Brahman? Can I seek in any way I like and then say I am a seeker? No, I cannot. During the days of Christopher Columbus, a lot of people traveled from Europe. They wanted to find a short route to India. They wanted to find a way to reach India using sea route. A lot of people tried. You know that Vasco da Gama came to India through the sea route. But Christopher Columbus did not come to India. He reached some other place. Right? We have an entire country called West Indies, named so because once upon a time people mistook it for India. But look at what happened. A lot of people wanted to seek India, but many of them went in the wrong direction. Some people went northwards from Europe. Some people went westwards and reached America. Some people went southwards and reached Africa. You should know how to travel if you really want to travel, correct? So calling yourself a seeker is easy, but being a proper seeker is difficult. So there is the story about the egg of Columbus. I might have mentioned it in one of the previous lectures. It's one of my most favorite stories. The egg of Columbus is a story where Christopher Columbus returns from his expedition and is celebrated for discovering a whole new continent. They are celebrating his return in his country. At that event, one man asks, "What is the big deal? People are talking as though you created an entire continent. You did not do that. The continent was already there. The land was already there. All you did was travel towards it. You went there, therefore you found it. What is the big deal? What have you achieved?" Columbus responded in a very intelligent way. He handed over an egg. Of course, please do not ask me whether the story really happened in history. I was not there during his time. We only repeat whatever we have been told in the past. As long as it's useful for us, we should take these stories seriously because the messages they teach us are very great. So Columbus gave him an egg. They were sitting right near a table. So he said, "Can you make this egg stand vertically?" The man kept the egg, but egg is of such a nature that outside there is a white shell, inside there is some semi-solid liquidy kind of a thing. Therefore, attracted by gravity, it would always try to ensure that the egg does not stand vertically. It will stand only horizontally. No matter how many times the man kept the egg, he tried to keep it vertically. Then he kept it upside down, vertical. None of it worked. He tried again and again. It didn't work. Then he said, "Okay, I don't know how to do. Can you do it?" Columbus took the egg and he smashed it on the table. When he smashed the egg, he smashed in such a way that the bottom side of the egg became flat from being smashed onto the table. And the top side remained as it was, and the egg stood vertically. The egg was broken, but it stood vertically. Now the man started crying foul. "How is this fair? You never told me that I'm allowed to break the egg. I tried every possible way to make it stand vertically, but I couldn't do it. You were able to achieve it only because you broke it. You never told me that we are allowed to break. If you had told me, I would have also broken." At that point, Columbus replies by saying, "Exactly, my friend. Nobody told me that I should travel in this particular direction to find new lands. I found it by myself. That is the reason why they are celebrating me. Had people already told me that this is the direction I should go to find it, there would have been nothing to celebrate about my expedition." So the moral of the story is that when you want to be a real seeker, you should know what to seek and how to seek. This is the reason why in Vishishtadvaita we focus so much on 5 things that we collectively call as Artha Panchakam. Vishishtadvaita always stresses on Artha Panchakam. Why? Because without Artha Panchakam, the school cannot exist as a school of philosophy and theology. Who should you attain? Who is that Brahman? If you don't have answer to that question, how will you seek him? I seek Brahman. Okay, what is Brahman? I don't know. Does it mean I am seeking? How can I seek something that I don't even know? That we know nothing about. We need to know something about it. Some qualities of that Brahman. Not every quality, maybe at least a few qualities of that Brahman. Only if we know, we will be able to seek. If we do not know any quality of that Brahman, we will never be able to seek that Brahman. That Brahma Jignasa itself cannot be defined. If nothing is known about that Brahman, what kind of Jignasa will I have? I should at least know that there is some entity who is doing something. Janmadhyasya yataha, hence that sutra. Who says, remember the Vedas spoke, when they spoke about Brahman, they said he is that Brahman who creates, preserves, destroys everything. Some description is given about him. There is a lot more. But at least for starters, you got something to know about Brahman, right? Now you can proceed. Slowly you can start seeking. How do you seek? I am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. The Veda itself says, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. I am that Brahman. So why should I seek? If I say such a thing, it means I understood neither the Veda nor Brahman nor myself. I am Brahman, right? So what is there to seek? There is nothing to seek. Okay. If there is nothing to seek, then why is Vedanta talking about Brahma Jignasa? Why is the Veda saying that you should attain Brahman? Apnoti param. It is said, no, Brahma with apnoti param. How do you attain that supreme? Apnoti param means attains the supreme. Attains the supreme. How do you attain the supreme? You cannot attain the supreme if you start by saying, I am supreme. Okay, you are supreme. So what? The ajnana that you have would still remain within you. The hunger that you have, the failure to disassociate the body from the Atma, and all the hungers associated with the body, hunger for food, hunger for enjoyment. When a person has all of that, how could he call himself Brahman and be happy? Yes, I am that Brahman, I am that Brahman. It's very easy to call, no? There's a guy even today, somewhere abroad, nobody knows where. He says, I am the supreme being. He says so. Of course, there are thousands of people in India who are also saying the same thing. Yet, are they saying it after realization? Are they able to prove that they are the supreme being? What are they even displaying as the supreme quality? One thing to know is that the supreme being has fixed qualities. They don't keep changing. The supreme being that we call as Brahman has fixed qualities. Brahman doesn't change. It is a very, very important thing to know about Brahman. So we might be thinking, oh, I have improved all these days. I didn't have the word Brahman. Today I have the word Brahman with me. I will call myself Brahman. I'm getting hungry. What shall I have? My tongue is craving for cheese. Let me order some cheese margarita pizza. I can have it, right? Why can't I have? I am having pizza because I am Brahman and it is my duty to do puja to Brahman. It is my duty to give offerings to Brahman. What do you offer Brahman? You offer Brahman whatever Brahman likes. I like margarita pizza, so let me order margarita pizza and eat it. I am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi, therefore I will eat it. And eating itself will become an act of worship of that Brahman. So whatever you said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, I can do all of that about myself. No, I will hear about myself. I will sing glories of myself. I will ask people to do Padasevana of me. You know, there's a word for it. It is not called bhakti, nor is it called self-realization. It is called narcissism. Only a narcissist person would be able to do that. So there is a great deal of difference between what is actually taught in the Vedic scripture and what different people might interpret it to be. People can interpret in 1 million different ways, but how do you know which one is correct? Whatever has been said by the scripture is correct. How do you know what the scripture has said? You refer to the authentic acharyas. Why do you refer to the authentic acharyas? Because the authentic acharyas have studied so much. Bhagavad Ramanuja cites so much from the Veda. He says, if we are to accept your pradhana as Brahman, it will go wrong here, it will go wrong there, it will go wrong here, it will go wrong there. How are we going to handle all of these Vedic statements? By interpreting one Vedic statement in your way, we are cancelling 10 other Vedic statements. That would be great injustice to the Veda. Therefore, we cannot call Pradhana as Brahman. Such kind of a service to us has already been done by the great Acharyas. They have already done such a great service. We don't have to scratch our brains and keep trying to understand. Just follow their teachings. That is enough. Somebody took great pains to create Google Maps. I don't know how Google Maps works, but all I have to do is open it, put the starting point destination, and it will show me the route. Do I really have to learn how Google Maps works, how GPS works, how signal goes to satellite and everything? No, I don't have to. Somebody has made everything easy for me. I am grateful to whoever developed Google Maps. And I am completely grateful, ultimately grateful to Sarva Karana Karana, the cause of all causes, who has given us everything, that Brahman. We should show that gratefulness while seeking him. So seeking him does not mean that we assume whatever we like. Oh, I think he had some problems, mistakes, this, that. Nobody is perfect here, right? So how can Brahman be perfect? Brahman is also imperfect. Maybe Brahman created, but Brahman has nothing to do with the universe. He just created and walked away. Maybe the entire universe is just a simulation running inside Brahman's computer. Maybe he's just playing a very complex computer game. I can assume in 100,000 different ways. All of them would be very, very interesting, thought-provoking, but would they be factual? So the true seeker is not one who imagines what is being sought and the route to reach whatever is being sought. The true seeker is one who understands what needs to be sought and how it needs to be sought and goes in that direction. Such a seeker gets real improvement. The others, they will say, be a seeker, don't be a believer. Their entire lives, they will keep seeking. They will never find the end goal. Therefore, they will never become believers. They will seek Brahman today. They will seek Brahman tomorrow. They will seek Brahman 100 years later. They will seek Brahman 1000 lives later. But they will keep on seeking. There are certain countries. India, if you see, it is developing so rapidly. India and China are developing so rapidly that they are competing with developed countries. It's only a matter of time before India gets called as a developed country. I'm very sure of it. But then back in my childhood, my teacher used to very jovially say, Japan, after the World War, was totally undeveloped. It was suffering. It did not have proper natural resources. It struggled so much. Singapore was in utter poverty. Look at them today. They are all developed countries. But how was India before? India was a developing country. How is India today? It is a developing country. How will India be 10 years from now? It will still be a developing country. I was told this in the late 90s. And yes, in the late 2000s, we were still a developing country. Even as of today, we cannot call ourselves a complete developed country, right? At least we are traveling forward. But what about those who remain there in the developing stage and never ever finish? That is not seeking. That is staying behind. Staying within my comfort zone and calling myself a seeker is not seeking. If I say be a seeker, not a believer, it means I will never stop my car. Even if my car reaches the destination, I will not stop there. I will keep on driving. Why? Because I should be a seeker, not a believer. That is stupidity. We should avoid that stupidity. Brahman reveals himself at the appropriate time. Therefore, I don't have to seek him. He will automatically come to me when the time is right. There are some people who say that. That is also untrue. Of course, the slide here is titled as recap, but much of what we are discussing is new, right? We don't repeat much of what has been said unless it is absolutely necessary. Like, for example, the summary of the sutras. So, Brahman does not automatically come to us. When the time is appropriate, Brahman will reveal itself. Okay, fine. What do you mean by time getting appropriate? Which time is appropriate? Should I look for Shubha Hora? Should I look for Rahu Kala? What Kala? Which Kala is it when Brahman appears in front of me? The Kala doesn't come by itself. We have to take effort to bring that. Remember, long ago we studied that about Parabrahman. We all need to know. We all need to attain Parabrahman. We saw a shloka of Swami Deshika. Manivara iva shaurer nitya hrudyopi jivaha. Kalushamatira vindan kinkaratva dhirajyam. Vidhi parinati bhedat vikshitaste nakale. Guru parishadupajñam prapya gopayati swan. When the time is right, how does the time become right? He will explain later. But when the time is right, you get the grace, and through the grace you get a guru, and through the guru's grace you learn about Brahman, and through that knowledge of Brahman you seek and attain Brahman. Ishvarasya cha sauhardam yadricha sukrutam tatha Vishnoh katakshamadvesham abhimukyam cha satvikaihi sambhashanam shadetani hyacharya prapti hetavaha. This was said. Okay, how do you attain that guru? How do you get that acharya prapti? At the appropriate time, the guru shall appear. At the appropriate time, the acharya shall appear. There are a lot of people who say that. It is technically correct, but the time doesn't come by itself. Time has to be made appropriate by us. There are some things in our life which are controllable. There are some things in our lives that we cannot control. I cannot control the oil prices. I cannot control the gas prices, but I can control the quantity of what I am eating. I can control the quality of what I am eating. I can avoid buying from outside restaurants which anyway hype the prices. I can cook food at home which will be healthy. And I can cook only what is necessary instead of cooking anything and everything. Correct? So things that are in our control, we can work on that. Do we have such things? Yes, we have. Are there things outside of our control? Maybe there are certain things outside of our control today, but once upon a time they were in our control and we did not do anything. Because of that, they have run out of control. So there are only two kinds of things. Things that we can control today and things that we could control in the past but missed it. And therefore we cannot control anymore. You know, the train came to my station. I did not get into it. Now the train has gone 100 kilometers away. How can I go and catch it? I can't. So we should understand that things do not happen automatically. We should take the effort. Then they say, okay, this devotion, how do you show devotion? Do you show devotion to the body by ordering pizza, like I mentioned some time back? No, that is not appropriate. The Antaratma, right? He is within you. You don't have to seek him outside. A lot of people say it. They are not wrong, but they need to be understood properly. Saying that Brahman is within us and we don't have to seek him outside, it's a very deep statement, a very, very philosophically deep statement. When we fail to understand it, we make lots of mistakes. I believe even Swami Chinmayananda in recent times, right, from a few decades ago, he very famously said this. It is absolutely correct. But what is meant by that statement has to be understood by us. How do we understand it? Once again, you turn to the scriptures. That is how you understand it. And of course, there are benefits of devotion. Just yesterday, I was discussing about devotion in the context of Advaita of Shankaracharya, wherein it is said that devotion gives chitta shuddhi. It is a discipline that helps your mind and everything. So I was asked a question at that time. Why should you show devotion to improve your mind? Aren't there other exercises which could also help? So I asked, could you give me an example? The lady who was speaking with me, she said, Okay, let us take the example of addiction to having sweet foods. Let us say you are addicted to ice cream. That means your mind is not in control. You want to bring control to the mind. You don't need devotion for that. If you start eating bitter things, you force yourself to eat bitter things every day. Eventually, your craving for ice cream will disappear. You will get so used to bitterness that you wouldn't mind eating ordinary food, and therefore you wouldn't crave so much for ice cream. Isn't that control of the mind? Why do we need devotion? So then I gave an answer, which is quite different from the answer that we saw in the previous class. Here, we are seeing that the benefits of devotion are not applicable to a single instance like being addicted to ice cream or being addicted to something very simple, very silly. I always like uh, running to the school bus and sitting first inside as a school student. Maybe there is some student who likes that. That is a childish thing. But are you going to find different solutions for each and every one of them? I might crave for 100 different things. Does it mean I have to do 100 different sadhanas? As I do 100 different sadhanas, I will get 100 different cravings. I controlled the 100 that I had, but I got a new batch of 100. What do I do? Devotion stops fresh cravings from affecting us as much as they used to affect us before. Their ability to influence us decreases. Devotion to Bhagavan by itself can be a cure for any and every kind of bad addiction. Devotion to Bhagavan gives lasting results. Devotion to Bhagavan is easy to do. It is not difficult. Devotion to Bhagavan guarantees results. So there are lots of benefits of devotion, which you cannot find elsewhere in other practices that you are trying. There are a few which come close. So if I were to practice yoga without the feeling of bhakti, I might be able to get a few of these. I've done well. But devotion is still different because it is easy to show. The path of devotion is easy. Remember, when I say path of devotion, I mean only path of devotion. I am not referring to the technical bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is difficult. Bhakti is easy. Bhakti yoga is difficult. Hence, we go for prapatti. We have seen this before in great detail. I'm not going to repeat that. So, as the sutras proceed, there is further discussion. There is one adhikarana called Anandamaya Adhikarana. Anandamaya. The word Anandamaya has been used in the Veda. What is this Ananda? Who has Ananda? How much Ananda? How do you understand? Ananda is usually translated in English as bliss. Somebody is mentioned as Anandamaya in the Veda. Now, who can have Ananda? Can Prakriti have Ananda? No, because Prakriti is not a living being. Prakriti is non-living. It doesn't have a consciousness. We might like to assume that it has consciousness. Oh, nature always has a coming back. Look at this, where nuclear bombs were dropped. Today we are seeing the growth of amazing plants and animals and so on. You might be able to say, but where you are continuously polluting nature beyond a point, nature need not necessarily destroy all that pollution and purify itself. Nature doesn't work that way. Nature is not a conscious being. Nature is not a conscious being. Therefore, Pradhana cannot have Ananda. Pradhana is another word for Prakriti, right? We have seen before. Prakriti cannot have Ananda. Who can have Ananda? A jivatma can have Ananda. Paramatma can have Ananda. Why? Because they fall under the Atman category. Atma can have Ananda. Others cannot have. Anatma cannot have Ananda. This is very important for us to understand. Atma can have Ananda. Atma can have Sukha. Atma can have Dukha. Anatma cannot have. Is my body feeling happy or is my Atma feeling happy? It is the Atma. The Atma feels happiness through its mind when certain things happen to the body that it is controlling. But it is the Atma that is feeling happiness. The body by itself is non-living. The body, which is Prakrita Sharira, cannot feel anything. Okay, what about Aprakrita Shuddha Sattva Sharira? Can it feel? No. Shuddha Sattva Sharira is also falling under Achit. Remember, we saw all of that classification before. Prakriti, Kala, Shuddha Sattva. So, we should understand that non-living entities cannot feel Ananda. Atma can feel Ananda. How much Ananda? In Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a section called Anandavalli. In Anandavalli, there is a discussion about Ananda itself. How much Ananda would a person have? An ordinary person. I don't know any unit of measurement, but let us assume there is a unit of measurement. Let us say that instead of the ordinary man, we are considering a different being, a different person altogether. A person who is Ashishta, Dridishta, and Balishta. Whatever he desires happens. He doesn't get sadness. He will bet on the sickest horse, but that horse will win the race. He will invest in the most useless company in the world, but that company will become a unicorn. Whatever he does will work well. He is very healthy, strong, wealthy. He has people. His family is there. Children are there. Servants are there. He has nothing to worry about in life. He is living a life of absolute luxury. How much happiness would this person have? Now, such a person, let us say, his happiness is X. Some number, right? We just have to assign some number. It is not infinite, we know that. There is always scope for more happiness, right? The first time my wife gives birth to a child, I would be super happy. But when my wife gives birth to a second child, I would once again be happy. I will not stop being happy just because I was happy earlier. Correct? Just like the small boy, he had ice cream yesterday. He was happy. If I give him ice cream today, he will once again get happy. He may not be as happy as yesterday because yesterday he had ice cream after a very long time. Today he is having it only after 24 hours. But he would still, his happiness would still increase, right? He would still get happy. So, it is not infinite happiness. It is finite. But this finite happiness is still way more than the happiness of the ordinary man. Why? Because right now we are talking about a person who is super successful, super lucky, healthy, wealthy, everything. Ashishto, Dridishto, Balishta, says the Veda. Such a person we are considering. How much happier would he be? We need some unit, right? Some X. I don't know. Let us assume he would be 100 times happier than the ordinary man. Can we assume? Yeah, we are just using a figure of speech, right? We are not doing absolute measurement. 100 times happier. Now tell me, could there be somebody who is 100 times happier than even him? We need to understand the root cause of happiness. What is causing happiness? You desire something and you attain whatever you desire. You get happy. Maybe you are desiring an object. Maybe I am desiring a Rolex watch. Maybe you're desiring some state of being. For example, maybe I was desiring that BJP should win the election in West Bengal. That is also a desire. I don't get any object in my hand. Nobody in the BJP knows me. But if I desire for BJP to win in West Bengal, that is also a desire. That is a desire we have to accept. And when BJP wins the election, I get happy. Yes, I wanted BJP to win. BJP won. I'm happy. That's how happiness works, right? You desire for something. That something might be materialistic. It might be just an event like BJP winning the election. Or it might be something else. I have written an exam. I'm not waiting for any event. I have already written an exam. And I have also got my results. I scored 84%. I'm not waiting for an event to occur. But I want to know how much my neighbor scored. I don't care about the others. If this guy scores even 1% more than me, he will laugh at me for an entire year and make fun of me. So I'm not waiting for any event. The event is over. Exam is over. Marks were already given. I have received my mark sheet. He has received his mark sheet. But when I see his mark sheet or when I learn about the marks that he has scored, if I see that in the past he scored something lesser, I will get happier, right? So happiness need not necessarily look forward to an event in the future. Maybe it is pertaining to some knowledge about the past. Happiness works in various ways, but in all of those ways, there is one thing common. What is that common thing? You desire something. When whatever you are desiring happens, you get happy. Therefore, more happiness means more number of desirable things getting fulfilled. That's all. You desire for more things, more of them are getting fulfilled. That's all. Let us come back to the example of the man who is healthy, wealthy, and everything. One fine day, he decides to travel to the center of the sun. He desires that. I want to go to the core of the sun, the very center of the sun. What are they saying? They are saying there is some Narayana there, Arkamandala Madhyastam, Surya Koti Samaprabham. We are saying that he is at the center of Arkamandala. We are saying that he is Surya Narayana, that he is inside of Surya and is making Surya to work. Brahmaditya Munnayati, right? Yudhishthira says in Mahabharata, Brahma Aditya Munnayati. There are multiple ways to interpret that, of course. Brahma Aditya Munnayati will also work. That has a different explanation. Brahma Aditya Munnayati will also work. In fact, the answers given by Yudhishthira to Yamadharma Raja can all be used to teach about Brahman. This was the very first question to him. Yama came in the form of a yaksha and wanted to test how scholarly is my son Yudhishthira in dharma. Yama wanted to know, and therefore he came disguised as a yaksha. It's a very beautiful story in Vanaparva of Mahabharata. Towards the end of Vanaparva, the story will come. So Yaksha went. The Pandavas who came to collect water were not allowed by the Yaksha. The Yaksha said, I will ask you a question. If you answer me, and if you answer me correctly, I will let you take the water. If not, I will not let you. The Pandavas did not hear. They did not bother. One by one, they started dying. They refused to listen to the Yaksha and they died. Finally, Yudhishthira came. Remember, we are talking about Yamadharma Raja. He can bring them back to life. It is not a problem. It's a temporary death that he has given them, just for the sake of having a one-on-one conversation with Yudhishthira. It is not so easy to bring Yudhishthira in front of yourself, right? When you're playing this kind of a disguise. So Yudhishthira appears in front of the Yaksha. He is also going to take water. The Yaksha says, Yudhishthira, stop. Don't take water. If you consume water without answering my question, you will also drop dead like your brothers. Yudhishthira stops. Then he asks, what is your question? Please tell me. Dozens of questions are asked by the Yaksha. But the first question is, who is the one who makes the sun rise? That is the question that we were just discussing about. The answer, we said, Brahma Adityam Unnayati. Brahman, which is at the center of the sun. Brahman, which is the supreme and is at the center of the sun, is able to make the sun to rise. Is it only at the center of the sun? Of course not. It is everywhere. It is Vibhu. So they are saying so many things. I want to go to the center of the sun. This fellow who has never failed in life. He gave exams, he was a topper. He invested money, he always got the best returns. He has lots and lots of land, lots and lots of servants. He has a huge family now, children, grandchildren. He has nothing to worry. He is very, very healthy. But today he is having a desire that he is not capable of fulfilling. What would happen to him? What would happen to his happiness? We should understand that. The Veda in Anandavalli does not explain so much. It speaks very quickly. It is for people to understand the Veda. The Veda is not trying to teach the beginners there, right? It is trying to teach those who are already at a level where they can understand what it is saying. But here, we do not call ourselves as the masters of the Veda, masters of the concepts of philosophy and everything. Therefore, we will go slowly. Our aim is to understand at least a few concepts, if not everything. But this is a very interesting chapter in the Veda, the Anandavalli. Have you ever been to Tirupati? I don't know how many people are still here in this call. If you have gone to Tirupati and had darshan there, the Vimana of the temple is called Ananda Vimana. There's a story behind that as well, but we will focus on the Anandamaya component, which has been discussed in the Brahma Sutras. We are specifically looking at the explanation as given in the Sri Bhashya, which is the Vishishtadvaita standpoint. It would be quite interesting as we see him discussing about the differences between jivatma and Paramatma in terms of Ananda, as to how Maya in Anandamaya is to be interpreted, and so on. We will look at that in the next class. But just remember this, a person who is super healthy, super wealthy, the most successful human, still cannot go to the center of the sun, at least not as of today. Maybe some 1000 years or 10,000 years later, such a technology would come into existence. I don't know. But at least as of today, that is impossible. There are things that cannot be achieved even by that person. Therefore, his happiness is not infinite, it is limited. Are there people who are more capable than him? Maybe there are things easier than arriving at the center of the sun, which this person cannot do, but somebody else can. What about them? What would be the level of bliss, the level of happiness that they are feeling? We will look at that in the next class. For now, if any of you has any question, please feel free to ask. See, Brahman is genderless to begin with. See, when you look at the way Bhagavad Ramanuja has said, he has said Brahmani Srinivase. Srinivase is Pullinga, correct? Srinivasaha, Akaranta Pullinga Shabda, Saptami Vibhakti, Ekavachana makes it Srinivase. But what about Brahmani? Brahmani is in neuter gender, right? So, gender as we know it is an attribute that is given on the basis of form. Every form doesn't have a gender, right? I have a book in front of me. The book doesn't have a gender. There might be languages which force you to use gender even on non-living things. But Sanskrit is not that kind of a language. Brahma is a neuter word. It is not masculine or feminine because it is beyond such distinctions. The distinction into masculine and feminine is based on the body, not on the Atma. Atma does not have any masculine or feminine. The jivatma does not have any gender. I will call myself a man today. Who knows, maybe in my previous life I was a woman. What then? Is the jivatma that I am referring to as myself, is it male or female? Yesterday you were female, today you are male. Has my Atma changed? No, it hasn't changed. It was the same Atma in the previous life, it is the same Atma now. What changed? The body changed. So at the level of the Atma, there is no such thing as gender. Atma is colorless, orderless, tasteless. Jivatma is Anu Parimana. Paramatma is Vibhu, he is omnipresent. That distinction might be there. But the Vibhu, that Paramatma who is everywhere, am I able to feel him in any way? I don't feel any masculine or feminine presence in front of me that I can identify as Brahman. Rakshit ji, okay, wait, before that, I will answer Jannat ji's question. Things can either be changed or could have been changed earlier. But what about birth and death? Birth, yes, I have been born. I cannot change my date of birth now. My date of death, maybe I can try to change. If I jump from the terrace of my building today, maybe I can change my death date from tomorrow to today. I don't know. Or maybe Yama will not come. Yama has decided that he will kill me only after 1 year. So I will jump from the building but still get saved. You know, like how in movies, the hero falls from such a great height, but correctly some lorry with, I don't know, fruits or something else comes and he falls on that and survives. Something miraculous might happen. We don't know. Do we have the ability to influence death? We do, but when do we do? How do we do? That is something that needs to be looked into. Remember the story of Markandeya, that Markandeya who went and hugged the Shivalinga. That would help you understand better. If you want a longer explanation of that, please remind me in the next class. Pradhana is the word used in Sankhya to refer to Prakriti. Prakriti is called as Pradhana. There are two entities. One is Purusha and one is Pradhana, according to them. Purusha, the word, it refers to Atma. Whatever we call as Atma, they call as Purusha. Not to be confused with male gender. Whatever we call as Prakriti, they call as Pradhana. Prakriti is Achit by nature. What would be appropriate? I will call it Prakriti, I will also call it Achit. What is wrong? My body, I call it a male body. I also call it a human body. It is not wrong, no? In the same way, Atman has no gender. So can we say Paramatma also has no gender? I still have a doubt in this. If this is the case, what is it then? Energy or something? No, Paramatma is not energy. Paramatma is Paramatma. You are having a doubt because you want to understand Paramatma based on whatever you have here. Here in the physical universe, you have only matter and energy. If matter is a part of a sentient being, you will get into genders, masculine, feminine, neuter. If it's energy, you will automatically say it is neuter. But just because you have energy here, can you call Paramatma as energy? Is it a form of energy, potential energy, kinetic energy? mgh equals half mv square. You cannot do any of that with Paramatma. Do not think about Paramatma to be some form of energy. These are easy things to imagine, but our imagination should also be bound by what has already been explained about Brahman by the Vedas. Because we are believers of the Vedas. Shastra yonitvat. Shastra is only telling us that this is Brahman. My mind will tell me in 100 different ways that this is Brahman. I will imagine Brahman to be a form of light. I will imagine Brahman to be the sun. I will imagine Brahman to be some entity who can never ever be seen or understood. Take Islam. Islam also has a description about the Supreme Being. They refer to the Supreme Being as Allah. How do they describe him? What does he look like? Ask them, what does he look like? They will ask you back, have you ever seen him? You haven't seen him. I haven't seen him. How do we know what he looks like? Does it mean they call him energy? No, they don't. Why? Because the Quran doesn't call him energy. It doesn't allow them to do that. Our belief system is bound by the teachings of certain people and certain scriptures. We should operate within that. If we operate within when we like and outside of it when we like, we would become hypocrites. Energy cannot be created, so yada yada hi dharmasya goes for a toss. Well, we could discuss such interesting things, but yeah, if you have any other question related to the class, not about birth, I will answer it in detail in the next class. Okay, just remind me. I will answer it in such a way that it is connected to what we are discussing about Ananda. Thank you so much for attending. Narayan.